Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Yesterday was National False Teeth Day, Tony. Are your teeth?
Uppercut, wicked, boom.
Other than hockey players, remember decades, generations ago, when it seemed everybody north of 65 had like a bunch of false teeth. They'd have a partial plate and they'd take it out during dinner, your grandparents. It was just so, ugh.
So the last tooth that I lost, among the many I've lost, was with Swedish fish. I ate a Swedish fish and my tooth just came out. It was a live tooth and it came out. It was terrible. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Myles Garrett's new deal, Garrett Cole's elbow and LeBron's groin. But we begin today with two free agent quarterbacks finding new teams. Sam Darnold is joining the Seahawks for 3 years and $55 million guaranteed. And Justin Fields, who Wilbon loves, is going to the Jets for $30 million guaranteed over two. Wilbon, what do you make of these signings?
Well, I don't care about any of the money. It's a lot of money. People make a lot of money in professional athletics. I don't care about that. I care about the fit. Sam Darnold might be an exception because he had to take that into account, given he's got this one shot maybe at making some money given his career trajectory. So he's got no DK Metcalf. He's got no Lockett. They're gone. Seattle cut them. But he's going to Seattle where he's going to play with a guy, a coordinator that had coached him before. Okay, I understand that after Geno Smith goes to the Raiders. And Justin Fields goes to the Jets. And I feel, I like Justin Fields. And it just seems like he's wandering in the desert. I mean, the Bears, when it comes to quarterbacks, have not known what they're doing for 100 years. The Jets don't know what they're doing about anything for 100 years. And I just feel bad for Justin Fields. And Tony, part of me thinks with these two guys, because Darnold had such a great season last year. Yes, I'm even taking into account the two games at the end of the season where he sort of flopped. He had a great season. But now I'm thinking with these guys going where they're going, there's no Justin Jefferson in Seattle for Darnold to throw to. They're just going to be irrelevant. Like we get to Columbus Day, and neither one of these guys is going to be relevant with the teams he is going to. That's just where I am on this.
So a few hours ago, before I knew about the Sam Darnold trade, I was preparing to talk about Seattle in this regard because Seattle, Geno Smith had left Seattle and DK Metcalf had left Seattle. And I was basically going to say, look, this is a place now they're going to struggle to even get to 500. They're obviously in a total rebuild by getting rid of a quarterback and a premier receiver. You know, they're a dull team.
Two premier receivers. Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, the dull team in a remote corner of the country. And I was going to say, we're not going to probably talk about them at all for 3 years. And then Darnold moves there. And that changes everything. I mean, one of the things that it changes, as the dominoes fall, one of the things that changes is the Pittsburgh circumstance.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh brings in Metcalf. He's a high-quality receiver. They have George Pickens. Am I right on that? A high-quality receiver. Their problem at the end of last year was they had no offense. Russell Wilson could not score any points, so they need a quarterback. They could have Wilson. They could have had Fields until he just left to go to the Jets. But what I was thinking about is Cousins and Rodgers and Darnold. And, and then now Darnold's off the board. And I also thought about Geno Smith going to basically reunite with Pete Carroll. Geno Smith resurrected his career in Seattle. Like, nobody thought that he'd be this good. But he's not that good. No,
do you think Darnold in Seattle is going to? Do you think Darnold in Seattle is going to be consequential, or just he going to go back to being Sam Darnold?
I don't know. Those first 14 games, he was great.
He looked great.
He was all world. But as you say, who's he going to throw to exactly now? Who is he going to throw to? So, there's consequences for all the moves.
Every single move, and with that in mind, let's move to even more personnel moves in the NFL. Wide receiver, Devontae Adams, he's not going to Seattle because he agreed to a deal with the Rams. $26 million, don't care about the money here. Myles Garrett decided the Browns weren't so bad after all, accepting that the money does matter here, $123 million, guaranteed to stay in Cleveland after he said the money didn't matter. And today, my Bears grabbed defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, center Drew Dahlman, both from Atlanta, and a pass rusher, Tony. Which of these is the most interesting move to you?
I'm going to leave the Bears out of this because I know you're going to talk about the Bears. I will say briefly about Devontae Adams that he's a terrific receiver. He will take Cooper Kupp's place, and he will give Matthew Stafford again a second wonderful receiver. But most interesting to me, and I'm going to go on for a while, is Myles Garrett, who now has no honor in my mind, no honor. He very publicly went out there and he said, trade me out of here.
He did.
Okay, I don't want to go from Cleveland to Canton. No, I want to be in Super Bowls. I want to win games. I don't want to be part of another rebuild in this place.
125 mil.
Okay, fine. Then he takes the Browns' money. He takes the Browns' money. He waits for Max Crosby to set the bar. He goes over the bar. And this is fine, Mike. I don't care if you take the money, but don't tell me this is a stand on principle. And don't tell me all you care about is winning, because they're not going to win. They were 3-14 last year. They are smack in the middle of a second rebuild that Myles Garrett said he didn't want to have anything to do with. So he's a rich guy on a bad team, and to me has no credibility. To me.
Tony, I don't disagree with your assessment of it, except to this degree. At some point, while Myles Garrett was making those stands, going on every interview and show in America except this one, saying he wanted out and he wanted to contend. At some point, somebody close to Myles Garrett, maybe a relative, maybe a frat brother, said, Myles, $125 million guaranteed. Shut up and sign the deal.
That's fine.
Okay, so that would happen. So that's enough of Myles Garrett for me. And he could have wound up in Chicago, believe me. I know. But I'm going to go, Tony, with the Bears making a major difference. They signed 3 offensive line starters, interior offensive linemen that will start the season in front of the too often sacked Caleb Williams on opening day. Knock on wood for good health. The most recent of them, Dahlman, 25 years old, stud center. This also allows the Bears to do other things with their 3 draft picks in the top 41. And you go get 2 defensive linemen. One is an edge rusher, another one a popular figure with the coaches and people in Atlanta who they cut yesterday. And I remember thinking when they cut him, wow, he'd be sort of nice to add, even though he's like 30, 31 years old. You'd like to have this kind of guy in your lineup of largely younger players. Tony, the Bears have had one hell of a week. I know you want to see them play. I want to see them play. Yeah, but Tony, there are plenty of times where I've said to you the Bears did nothing. This is a different time for the Bears.
I'm glad you're happy.
I'm not just happy.
I'm glad you're happy
thrilled.
with the Bears. And they have to protect Caleb Williams, who was sacked more than any player in the league last year.
68 times.
That's fine. That's fine. I just think the overriding issue here to me was Myles Garrett saying, I want this, want this, want that. Oh, no, I'll take your money. We move now to baseball. Yankees ace Garrett Cole, who started Game 1 and Game 5 of the World Series last year, will likely need Tommy John surgery. If he needs it, he'll be out for all of this season. Cole won the Cy Young in 2023. Last year had a 2.17 ERA and 5 postseason starts. Wilbon, where does Cole's elbow injury leave the Yankees?
You know, you hate to hear this. I mean, you're talking about an ace. You're talking about a stalwart who knows about postseason pitching, a stud, as we used to say.
Yeah.
And yet the Yankees have so many injuries now with Heel out as well. The Yankees, they could probably have the first opening day bullpen day where just, April 4th, they tried out in the Yankee Stadium 5 relievers who pitch, an inning and 2/3. I don't know where it leaves them. It leaves them where every staff seems to be, which is everybody seems to have Tommy John or, a partial Tommy John or a second Tommy John. And my eyes roll when I hear it, but you don't want to see a pitcher of this consequence this late in his career dealing with Tommy John surgery. The Yankees have enough money. I'm not going to hold the GoFundMe for the Yankees. They'll figure out a way to get around it. They'll spend some money. They'll fleece somebody in a trade. They'll get over it. But I hate to see Garrett Cole in this situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. And I've used this word before. The amount of pitchers that go out, it's a plague in Major League Baseball.
It is.
A plague.
It is.
The chasing of speed and spin wipes out pitchers in the way that butterflies and bees are wiped out. I mean, it's really awful. In terms of the Yankees, the last time I looked, they had Aaron Judge, right? And they have Paul Goldschmidt, right? And they have Cody Bellinger. So you don't have to, as you say, you don't have to do a GoFundMe for them. And we're talking about a long season. People get hurt at various points. It's 162 games. And by the way, for people who aren't aware, it isn't starting. It isn't starting for almost another 3 weeks. So let's not go crazy. And in terms of pitchers and pitching staffs, Mike, the Los Angeles Dodgers last year, there was a period of time when they had lost 4 or 5 starters.
Yeah.
They ended up winning the World Series. So, you know, this is part of what happens in baseball. There's an ebb and flow to your staff, but it is, when you step back from it and you see how many pitchers are out all the time.
It's amazing.
And it's awful. It's awful. Let's take a break. Coming up, what does LeBron's groin strain mean for the Lakers?
That's awful, too. UCLA beat USC, Tony. But was there a bigger result in women's college hoops over the weekend?
Can you tell me how Giancarlo Stanton is out with tennis elbow? I mean, isn't that the oddest thing in the world?
Doesn't
tennis
he just
elbow?
not want to be in spring training?
LeMahieu was out.
Earned that. He's earned the right to not want to be in spring training.
Heel is out.
Maybe he's...
What's striking a chord with the horde? That's a good line. Let's see what's first. I have to go into the mailbox.
Get your
What does LeBron's groin strain mean for the Lakers?
Well, Tony, it may not mean much. I mean, there's some feeling out there this may be more than the 1 or 2 weeks that's out there being publicly stated. It could be 2 or 3. And then you're getting dangerously close to the end of the regular season. We expect LeBron to be back for the playoffs. LeBron said he wasn't all that worried, but this injury, any injury at 40 is worrisome. This is worrisome. Here's the real worry. And I know you don't want to see this because you tipped your hand this morning on your podcast. LeBron and the Lakers could slide out of the 3 spot, which may help avoid Golden State in the first round. I know you don't want to see that in the first round. You want to see it later in the playoffs. I agree with you. You don't want to start the playoffs with Golden State and the Lakers playing each other. My God, it'd be fascinating in the second round or the conference finals. But the Lakers are going to need him. They're going to get him back. They're going to need everybody back. But they're not going to be in that 3rd spot if LeBron's not in there. Because LeBron right now is one of the 3 best players in the league all season.
You misread me completely on the notion of the Lakers and the Warriors playing in the first round of the playoffs.
What?
At least you know you get them there. There's no guarantee you'll ever get them anywhere else. And that is a series that only everybody would want to see.
Yeah, but not in the first round. Come on.
Sure, I would like to see it. I don't care about the rest of the playoffs once I see that. That's enough for me. In terms of LeBron James right here and now, it's unfortunate because it keeps Luka Doncic from playing on the same court as LeBron James. That's what the Lakers are about now.
Right.
Those 2 guys getting to play. The more games that you miss, the less chemistry that you can develop. Other than that, I don't really think it's a big deal. Let's say he misses a couple of weeks. I think they have 6 games in 8 days.
Yeah.
That's a hectic part of the season, right? So if you get LeBron back after that and he's rested and he's healthy, I don't think that's a bad thing at all, really. But unlike you, I know you want to see him against the Warriors down the road. I want to take it when I can get it. I want to take it when I can get it if it's out there.
Right away. I don't want the appetizer to be that.
That's the main course, pal.
Yeah, it is, ain't it?
That's the main course whenever it's out there. Bigger result from the weekend in women's basketball. UCLA beating USC for the Big Ten title. That's a joke, right? Big Ten title.
Yeah.
Or South Carolina beating Texas for the SEC title.
South Carolina was going to beat Texas. South Carolina's going to beat everybody left in its way except UConn, and then we'll see. South Carolina's beaten 2 number 1s and a number 2 already this season.
Texas is 1.
So
Texas was 1.
I'm sorry,
right?
2 number 1s and a
country.
2. So they've already done that. So no, it's USC finally getting popped by UCLA, which fought back after losing 2 games. The last one a week ago that I attended in Los Angeles, Tony. And it's a local rivalry, but a national rivalry with star players and teams with aspirations, each that can win the national championship. So it's UCLA after losing, I think, a double-digit result last Saturday in Pauley Pavilion under the banners of the great John Wooden. They lost that game. They needed to win. They had a great comeback. No, it's UCLA beating SC.
I'm amazed you had time to fit that game into your schedule and still read all the draft material that you were reading over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to leave the women's college basketball to you. You were there. You saw it. You you root for South Carolina and you root for UCLA because you love Dawn Staley and you love Kiki Rice. We understand that. I spent much of the weekend, I spent a lot watching the golf, but I also spent a lot watching men's college basketball. Dove in for the first time this year. Saw Alabama beat Auburn very late in that game. Big win for Alabama because they had a bad week the previous week. I saw St. John's go on the road at Marquette and win in overtime. And I think Rick Pitino's probably going to be coach of the year with what he's done at St. John's. And I saw Duke withstand in the last few minutes of the first half, and the first few minutes of the second half, a great rally by North Carolina, put them ahead in the game, and Duke was able to win that game, even though Cooper Flagg was out for at least 10 minutes, I thought, with foul trouble. So this is the time for both of us to watch college basketball. This is when it emerges.
The men, you don't even, you still gotta, you need a program to know who they are. The women's game is much more exciting. The personalities are greater and bigger and more commanding. You can drag me into the men.
You need a program for? You need a program to know all these offensive and defensive linemen that you just got on the Bears. Enough email. Let's get one last break in. Still to come, Drake pulls off something that's hard to believe.
He just dropped a new album. He's got time to play basketball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic get set to face each other for the second time in 2 nights tonight. Are the Nuggies going to bounce back?
Do you know where Drake is? Do you know the state Drake's in? You know, right?
Canada.
No, not that Drake. Happy time, people. Happy 27th birthday, Justin Herbert. The Chargers quarterback was Rookie of the Year in 2020 when he set records for most completions by a rookie, 396, most passing touchdowns by a rookie, 31, and most 300-yard games by a rookie, 8. Herbert has been fine since, if not great. This past season, Herbert had 23 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. But Herbert is 0-2 in the playoffs. In 2022, he blew a 27-0 lead on the road to Jacksonville. This past season, Herbert was 14 for 32, with 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions, including a pick 6 in a 32-12 loss at Houston. It's not put up or shut up time yet, but as there are doubts about Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, there may be some about Herbert.
That's true, Tony, but if I, as a quarterback, could build a 27-0 lead in the playoffs, I didn't blow the damn game. The guys wearing 50s and 90s on my team, they blew the game. If I hand you a 27-0 lead, you teammates better close. If I'm Justin Herbert, I ain't taking that one.
A not-so-happy anniversary, Rudy Gobert. On this day 5 years ago, the then Utah Jazz center took heat for making light of coronavirus concerns that were growing around the world. At the end of the Jazz post-shoot-around meeting with the media, Gobert somewhat playfully touched every microphone and tape recorder that was in front of him before leaving the podium. Within 2 days, Gobert became patient zero in the NBA. The next day, Gobert began experiencing flu-like symptoms, and just before tip-off of a Jazz Thunder game, officials got word Gobert tested positive for COVID. The game was canceled. Shortly after, the NBA suspended the season, a shutdown that lasted until July 30th.
You know what's so odd about that video? The coaches are in suit and tie. Since then, hardly anybody, certainly not in the NBA, coaching a suit and tie. Tony, Rudy Gobert's an odd duck. As you go around the league, you realize he's a player of impact. People have traded for him. Minnesota traded for him. He impacts the game, but he's not necessarily well liked. It's kind of weird.
Suit and tie is good. That's why I wear it. Happy trails to yesterday's game for Bradley. The Braves fell in the Missouri Valley Conference final to Drake, which is the real story here. Last season, Drake won 28 games, made the tournament, but head coach Darren DeVries left for West Virginia and the roster evaporated. 12 players transferred, 2 graduated, 1 quit the sport. Drake hired Ben McCollum, who had won 4 national titles at D2 Northwest Missouri State. 4 starters followed him. He added 2 freshmen and 1 JUCO transfer, along with 2 from Wyoming for a 9-man rotation, and went 30-3 and won the conference's automatic bid. Now the question is someone going to try and hire McCollum away from Drake?
You know, like you, I really, as a coach, love Rick Pitino. But there's no way he's coach of the year when a dude comes in and loses 15 players, replaces them, and wins 30. That guy, Ben McCollum, is coach of the year. He is.
And replaces with D2 players, which is really good. One mistake, of course, it was Wilbon's. South Carolina didn't beat two teams that had been ranked number one and team ranked number two. They lost to those teams.
My bad.
But they did beat one number one. Texas beat them twice. Quick to the big finish as we run on the show.
Do it.
Khalil Mack returning to the Chargers on a one-year deal worth $18 million. Okay with you?
I was saving that midnight blue number 52 with Mack on the back, but The Athletic reports Rob Manfred and some other owners are trying to pressure the Rays owner to sell. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are, for a team with a very small budget, they've done very well. Haven't they made the World Series twice? Rockets forward Amin Thompson is out up to 2 weeks with left ankle sprain. Significant?
Yeah, because with fewer than 20 games left, the Rockets are already tumbling in the Western standings. Significant. Russell Hanley won at Bay Hill. Even though my man Colin Morikawa, he had the 3-shot lead with 5 to play, I'm impressed.
Yeah, because he chipped in for an eagle on 16 with 2 other birdies, 4 under on the back. Last one, Nuggets and Thunder again tonight. Who you got?
You know, the Thunder pulled away late, won by 24. I know it's in OKC, and they're in first. They beat everybody. Nuggets have to win tonight. They should win that game.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. Diane Long, shout out for the shoes. Thank you.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts. Your sports.
In our bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon. What has been the most significant NFL move so far?
If we're talking about one move, you could talk about Myles Garrett because he's the best player we're going to talk about, and he extended, in Cleveland. But I don't think it makes Cleveland any better. I don't think it impacts the league. I don't think it does anything because Cleveland doesn't matter. Does Seattle getting Sam Darnold matter that much when they got rid of Metcalf and Lockett and they got draft picks in Darnold? No, to me, there's not a great plus there. The Patriots got Milton Williams and some drafts and some defensive players, and it may come to fruition. It helps make them better, but not right away. I'll let you. I'm going to say, I think they were the big loser. No, this is going to surprise you. The Bears have been the big winner. They signed 5 linemen. No,
stunned.
Listen.
Totally
when
surprised.
It's time for me to be in despair over the Bears, you know I'll say it. And when it's time to pat them on the back and kiss them, I'm going to do that too. 5 linemen, including remaking the offensive line, 3 starters, including Tooney and Dahlman in 1 week. And they got Dio Obangwo, a pass rusher, 5 linemen in 1 splash, a few days. Bears, not one move, a series of moves with the winners.
Nobody who's ever heard you talk is surprised that you have concentrated on the Bears and will laud the Bears for everything they've done. I'm staying away from the Bears. I want to make a couple of observations here. One is a lot of these moves have contingencies. For example, DK Metcalf to the Steelers, that's a big move, but not if they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Who is going to get him the ball? That was their problem by the end of last year. And a lot of these moves are made by bad teams. The Jets were not a good team last year. Your Bears were not a good team last year, right? Cleveland Browns were not a good team last year. The move that I actually question Myles Garrett staying there. And not just because he made such a big deal publicly as saying he wanted to get out of there, but they're a bad team. They're a 3-14 team. If I trade him, I get bodies. If I take the money I just spent on one guy, him, I get 3 or 4 bodies. I have a better chance to get bet by. You want to keep Myles Garrett? That's great if you're 14-3. You know, you want to see what the Eagles do. You want to see what the Chiefs do to stay on top because they cut a bunch of people, they bring other people in. But to me, the Browns, it's just another bad deal because they could have used that money to bring in so many players.
Well, Tony, I think I agree with you on the Myles. That's why I said he's the best player we're going to talk about. But it's not relevant because they could have gotten maybe a Herschel Walker Hall. Youngsters, Google that.
Yes.
You can get not just a few. You might have gotten, I don't know, between picks and players, 5 or 6 assets out of that whole thing, which you could use to sort of stock your team. They didn't do it. But Tony, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. Bad teams are the ones who are supposed to make these moves at the start of free agency. That's the point. So they won't be bad teams that get ripped by you for the next 3 years. Thank you very much.
I'm never going to rip the Bears.
He's done. We'll see where you're ripping, whether you're ripping them or not. How'd your Commanders do getting Larry Tunsil? How many penalties Laramie Tunsil, how many penalties he have last year?
Laramie, he had a lot of penalties. He had a lot of penalties, but Jaden Daniels didn't get sacked anywhere near as much as
He ain't going to get sacked that many times this year because we something in free agency. Pay attention. He must have been a
12-minute segment. Let's stop.
We're done. Get out of here.